Climate change is set to be front and centre as world leaders gather in France for the annual G7 summit. French President Emmanuel Macron calls rainforest fires in Brazil's Amazon a, quote, international crisis that must be addressed. But the US President Donald Trump is something of a wild card when it comes to that, and it's unclear what, if any, common ground there will be found on key issues. Well, Jim Bitterman joins me now from the French coast on more on what to expect, or perhaps what not to expect from this summit. Jim.
Well, that topic of the Amazon, I think, is almost certain now to come up. We have at least three of the leaders, Macron, Merkel, and Boris Johnson, saying that it should be on the table for the leaders to discuss. Macron said through a spokesman earlier, given the attitude of Brazil over the last weeks, the president can only conclude that President Bolsonaro lied to him at the Osaka G20 summit. That's pretty strong language to be coming from a president right on the eve of this gathering here. And basically what Bolsonaro apparently promised during that Osaka summit was that they would do more about climate change. And then Boris Johnson said he's deeply concerned by the increase in fires in the Amazon rainforest and the impact of the tragic loss of these previous habitats. So he's on board to bring this up. And Angela Merkel said also through a spokesman that she would like to see it brought up at this G7 summit. The only problem is, of course, there's the seventh member of the seven leaders here, Donald Trump, who, like Bolsonaro, is a denier-in-chief in terms of climate change. So it doesn't seem that likely that, although the subject may be brought up, that they could come to any kind of agreement on it, Robin.
Yeah, and particularly because there won't be a final communique broadly. Just on the issue in terms of a global response, at least by those powerful nations, can they agree off the sidelines on other types of pressure rather than just say this a political slap on the wrist? I mean, do you think there's any momentum behind that?
Yes, and I think especially with the three European leaders that I just mentioned, Boris Johnson and Merkel and Macron, they're talking along with the European Union about this idea, or they had been talking about this idea of an agreement with Mercosur, the trading bloc in the Southern Hemisphere. And I think that that's something that Macron has said quite specifically, that he's going to work against any kind of agreement as long as Brazil is not doing more to fight climate change and also to fight those fires that are burning out of control.
Okay, thanks for that. And you'll be reporting throughout the weekend from that summit from France. Thanks so much, Jim Bitterman, as always. Appreciate it. So let's count how many of these fires are raging. We know that tens of thousands of them are burning right now in the Amazon rainforest. People who live there say they're being deliberately set as part of a government-backed deforestation campaign. Take a listen.
Que passa que nós vemos a destruição avançar.
With each passing day, we see the destruction advance, deforestation, invasion, logging. We are sad because the forest is dying at every moment. We feel the climate changing and the world needs the forest.
Well, reports say farmers and ranchers, as I was saying, are using the fires to clear land for cattle, and that there are calls for a ban on Brazilian beef imports. Well, Brazil is warning foreign powers to not intervene. Philip Fernside is a biologist at Brazil's National Institute of Amazonian Research. He joins us now live via Skype. You've lived, I think, for many, many years, more than 4 decades in Brazil. Give us an understanding how bad these fires are right now.
These fires are very bad. It's especially unusual because this is not a year with an abnormal dry season. We sometimes have a lot of fires, but it's always during an El Nino drought or an Atlantic dipole drought, not in a normal year. And looking at the weather data for the last 7 years, a study has shown that this is completely outside of the range of normality. And what can explain it is the rhetoric and the actions of Brazil's president and his Minister of the Environment, constant environmental rhetoric and basically paralyzing the program of finding people who are illegally deforesting. Now, this is something that burns areas that are being deforested. There's a huge peak in deforestation, not just fires, but clearing this year, which explains the the greater deforestation. And there's no economic explanation. It isn't that you have a big change in the price of soybeans or beef or something. So what explains it is this action from the current government, which came into office in January. We're now in the first dry season, and we still have another 3.5 years to go under this administration. So a lot of destruction can be done. It is amazing what has been done in dismantling the environmental agencies in only 7 months.
And there certainly, I think there was an 85% increase between this year and last year, and the change is, of course, the political leaders. In terms of the ranchers, are they some of the political base for Bolsonaro? And what does that mean in terms of that relationship and what might be happening on the ground?
Yes, the ranchers overwhelmingly supported Bolsonaro. And just last week, they organized a so-called Day of Fire, where ranchers in different parts of the Amazon agreed to burn on the same day, just to show the president that they were working hard to produce in the Amazon. So there's really a very direct connection there.
There's a direct connection, and just explain to us the logistics of this. Are these small farms, individual ranchers who collectively are, burning an acre or a hectare here, or is this more wide-scale commercial type farming?
Well, you have both things going on, but certainly the large ranchers especially are the main source of the burning. You also have small farmers, and they also burn. And what you're seeing now is all kinds of burning, not just deforestation, but the main thing is this burning of recently felled areas. But you're also burning cattle pastures, and you also have fires escaping into the forest. And that is really the most dangerous part of this, because that sets in motion a process that can destroy the forest. When you have a fire in a tropical rainforest, it's not like what people think of a forest fire. They think of the Disney movie of Bambi with the whole forest burning up. That's what happens in a pine forest. But in the Amazon, you just have flames creeping along, not creeping, but moving slowly along the forest floor. And they kill a lot of trees, not all of them at once, but some. And then the next time you have a fire, for example, during a big drought, there will be a lot of dead wood in the forest, and that will catch fire. It'll be hotter, will kill more trees. So you have a vicious circle forming that will destroy the forest. After 3 or 4 fires, it's no longer a forest. And that's something that's outside of human control. It's very different from deforestation. With deforestation, someone cutting down a tree with a chainsaw, you can decide not to do it, or the government can decide to take measures that will prevent people from doing it. But if the forest is burning up on its own, then it gets outside of human control. And that is a real risk to the Amazon. It's something that's already increasing, and future climate change will make this much more likely to happen.
Okay, a dire warning there from an expert, someone who cares deeply. You've worked there for so many years. Philip Fernside, a biologist at Brazil's Institute of Amazonian Research. Thank you for your expertise, sir. Thank you.